Today, we will continue working on the quiz app we created on a previous video. I will show you how you can add Google Sign-In to the app using AWS Amplify. AWS Amplify Authentication provides back-end services, easy-to-use SDKs, and ready-made UI libraries to authenticate users to your app. It supports authentication using passwords, phone numbers, and popular federated identity providers like Google's, Facebook, and more. I started at Google Developer Console and clicked Select a Project. Then clicked New Project and entered the Quiz app as a project name. Then clicked Create. Once the project is created, I selected APIs and services, then selected credentials. Next, I clicked on Configure Consent screen. I clicked on Create button and entered the required information and clicked on Save and Continue. I clicked on Save and Continue again, and finally clicked on Back to the dashboard. The consent screen is ready. From the left navigation menu, I selected Credentials and then Create Credentials. I choose the Auth Client ID option. The application type is Web Application. Here I entered a name, then clicked on the Create button. The confirmation screen displayed the client ID and secret. I will use those when I configure Amplify authentication. I added AWS Amplify to the app by running the command amplify init. This will provision the back-end resources on the cloud. The command created an Amplify folder which contains the Amplify project and back-end details. It also created the Amplify configuration Dart file, which the app will use to know how to reach to the provision back-end resources at runtime. I started configuring the Amplify auth category by running the command amplify add auth. Note the options I selected to set up the default configurations with a social provider. This will add a configuration for email and password flow and configuration for Google Sign-In. Note the redirect sign-in in the URL, which I will use later in the video. The setup steps will ask you for the client ID and secret. I got those when I configured the credentials on the Google Developer Console. I ran Amplify push command to publish the changes. Once that completed, I got the URL for the hosted UI. I will use that in the next step. Now I am back to Google Developer Console and selected the Auth Client ID I created earlier. I added the domain of the hosted UI as an authorized JavaScript origin. Then I added it with /auth2/IDB response as an authorized redirect URL. Time for iOS and Android platform configurations. I updated the Android manifest XML file in the Android app src main folder to add an activity and queries tag. Note how I am using the My App. This is the sign-in URL I configured earlier. For iOS, I updated the info plist file in the iOS runner folder to add an entry to the URL scheme. Time to add the Amplify packages into the pub/spec file. I used the packages Amplify Flutter, Amplify Auth Cognito, and Amplify Authenticator. Then I updated the iOS platform on the pod file to 13.5. Now we are ready to write code. I started with the main.dart file. I imported the Amplify packages and the Amplify configuration file. Then I created a function to configure Amplify by adding the Auth Cognito plugin and used it inside the main function. Next, we need to build the authentication flow. For that, I will use the Amplify Authenticator UI library. So I imported the Amplify Authenticator into the quiz app Dart file and warped the material app with the Authenticator widget. I ran the app and I got the authentication and the registration flow with Google Sign In.